Welcome to the Matt Phillips Podcast. I am Matt Phillips, your sales leadership coach, mental toughness expert, and founder of Matt Phillips Coaching. We help sales managers and leaders make more money, save time, and become kick-ass leaders of their sales teams. And that's what we're here to talk about on this podcast. We are here to give you the tools and tactics to build a well-oiled sales machine and teach you the mental toughness skills so you can show up confident, focused, emotionally in control, and ready to energize your team. It's time to talk sales leadership and mental toughness. Let's get into today's episode. Welcome to today's episode of the Matt Phillips Podcast. It is Matt Phillips, of course. Excited to be back with you on today's episode. And we're here to talk about leadership, and specifically, leadership has nothing to do with a title. Leadership has nothing to do with whether you have direct reports or not. Leadership has nothing to do with the number of direct reports that you have. Leadership is something different. At least that's what we believe at Matt Phillips Coaching. And I wanted to share a little perspective with you on this. You know, I am fortunate in my business to travel around, work with just amazing companies and do workshops and one-on-one coaching and the online program and, you know, sales manager trainings and all sorts of really cool experiences in my business. And I was reminded of this topic for today a number of months ago. This is probably about 6 months ago now. I was with one of my clients working with, a small group, running a workshop for them. And it was around building their leadership philosophy. And one of the big things that I'm all about is if you're going to be a great leader, right, you have to have a very clear philosophy around your leadership or leadership style or way of leading. And you have to be able to, in my opinion, talk about it in a very succinct way, a powerful way, an inspiring way, and paint this picture for your people of this is what it's going to look like when you're on this team, right? And these are the expectations. And this is a workshop that we put on and that we teach to make sure that as you progress through an organization, that you're very, very clear on this is how we need to show up. This is how I show up as a leader so we can be most effective and have some fun along the way and do some cool things and just make sure that, again, expectations are clear. And, you know, with that, I was with this group, was asked to come do this workshop with this group and help build their leadership philosophy. And, you know, started off fabulous group of individuals from a variety of different areas. There were individuals from sales and, you know, account executives and account managers and just this really, really cool group that was pulled together. And so I started going into like what we're here to accomplish today, things of that nature. And this one woman, I'll never forget, her hand raised. And I said, yeah, sure, you have a question? And she said, you know, I love the concept, love what we're doing here. I don't have any direct reports. So, you know, does this really apply to me? And I don't know, for some of you listening, you know, you may have a lot of direct reports. You may have just one direct report. You may have no direct reports, and you would have that same question, right? As I build myself to be an effective sales leader or sales manager or just, you know, leader in the organization, you know, do I have to have direct reports to build out a leadership philosophy? And the way I answer that question is exactly what we're here to talk about today. It's what I said earlier, like leadership has nothing to do with the number of direct reports. It doesn't have anything to do with your title. It doesn't have anything to do with the company you work for or the role that you're in. Leadership is about showing up your best every single day. It's setting expectations for what you believe is important, what you're going to drive towards, and what you want to achieve. And it's setting the standard for not only yourself, which is most important, but also if you happen to have a team, it's setting the standard for them as well. It's starting to create this identity around, you know, I am a leader. Direct reports or not. I am a leader. And I'm going to choose to stand out. I'm going to choose to set this bar that I am going to live up to because that's what leaders do. That's what people out front choose to do every single day. And I think it's an important thing to understand, just like that woman asked in that group, like, what a fabulous question, right? We're asked all the time, like, so tell me about your role at your company, or tell me about your position or title, you know, at your company. And it should always be answered with, you know, I'm a leader in sales. I'm a leader in finance. I'm a leader in fill in the blank. Again, it doesn't matter if you're a vice president or chief revenue officer or not. It's like we are out front leading. Leadership is a mindset. right? It's a belief system. It's a way of acting. It's a way of behaving. It's a way of reacting to situations as they come across your plate. That's why building your leadership philosophy is so important. I want to make sure I stress with you all that no matter where you're at, you are a leader if you choose to be, if you look at it that way. I was having a discussion with this gentleman that I had on the podcast about, 2 years ago. And he's a fabulous guy. He actually is the president of the company, and he knows everyone's name. And it's, about 500. Well, it's grown now since then, but at the time it was about 500 people in the company. He knew everyone's name and everybody's face. And I was blown away because the guy actually studied that. He would study pictures of people with their names and memorize them. So that way when you see him in the hallway, he'd be like, "Hi, Joe. Hi, Joanne. Hi," fill in the blank. And I'm like, wow, like I can learn a tremendous amount from this guy. Thus he was on the podcast. But, we were talking about this same concept, and there's so many different ways to think about it, right? Because I believe leaders act and talk and walk a certain way. And one of the key components is consistent learning. I think that's what leaders do. You look at from athletic perspective, right? If you look at the Major League Baseball players or NHL players or, pro football players, they have this fascination with learning, right? Of finding that edge of whether it's reading the book or it's listening to that podcast or it's going through that program or working with that coach, right? They want to find the edge. They're constantly figuring out, how do I prime myself and get that little extra 1% every day? And when I look from a sales perspective, I think the best sales leaders, salespeople, they have this hunger, for learning and developing. And I never forget, I was talking with this president about it, and he was saying he was talking to one of his leaders one day, and similar concept, right? Because a leadership philosophy, a leadership style, what do you do as a leader that separates you from everybody else? You can ask it in a bunch of different ways. But the way he asked, I thought was fascinating. He asked this person, he said, "What's the best leadership book you've read? And how do you apply those principles?" And I wonder what your answer would be to that. I don't think we have time to go through all the books that I would mention as part of this. But what's the greatest leadership book you've read, and how do you implement some of what you learned in that book? And it was interesting because this person didn't have an answer. She goes, "I've actually never read a leadership book, and so I don't have a good answer to that." And it was telling because, as we get into issues that pop up in business and life, right? It's when we're not prepared, when we're not learning, we're not growing, that's when different issues can crop up, right? And I'm just a big believer in that constant learning gives me information that I can react better every single time. And so I thought it was an interesting answer to that question. And lo and behold, that person didn't last too long at that organization anymore, but it was just fascinating when you really take a step back. And that's why I believe leadership is a mindset. Leadership's that approach, like I keep saying. And so today I want to challenge you with, I don't know where your mindset is at. Do you see yourself as a leader? Or are you waiting for some title or some recognition or something to come along to prove that you're that leader? And I want to challenge that if that's what you believe, because I sit here all day long and I think to myself that I am a leader, right? I may not have a massive team. I may have a massive team, but I have to be the example. I have to be the one setting the bar for myself first. I have to set the expectation with myself. And so I've formulated my philosophy around leadership. And part of it, I won't go through the whole thing today, but part of it is that I tell people when they join the team, and this is what I'm telling myself, right? That we set the bar, that we are the gold standard. And that every one of our competitors is going to look at Matt Phillips coaching and ask the question, what would they do? What would they do? And when I expand my leadership philosophy, obviously I go into much more detail around it of what that means, right? Of painting the picture of it. That's what we help companies work through. And in the online program, that's what we guide people through. But at the end of the day, it's like I see myself that way first, and I have to hold myself accountable to that standard. Otherwise, I can't expect others to do that. So wherever you're at in your career, maybe you're leading a team right now and you just need to kind of reset a little bit and think through like, wait a minute, yeah, I'm the one setting the bar, right? I need to create that leadership philosophy that's important to me and make sure that, I'm out front setting that standard and then talking to my team about what that is. Maybe you're in your career right now where you're trying to, you have that desire to move from, I don't know, just individual salesperson, right? Individual contributor up to sales manager or sales leadership. Now is the time to begin formulating what that looks like for you, because you're probably doing a lot of amazing things, right? I don't think you'd be listening to this podcast if you didn't have that desire to learn. I don't think you'd be listening to this podcast if you didn't have that desire, that hunger to move up, right? Whether that's making more money, getting more prospects and clients, or going up the leadership ranks because you want to manage people someday, or you're thinking about it. You wouldn't be here if you didn't care. And you wouldn't be here if you hadn't done some pretty good things in the past, right? So part of it is understanding, like, you've done amazing things. How do you capture that? How do you describe that? And then how do you put it into motion? How do you put it into a document that you can explain and leverage going forward? You set the standard. You set the bar. You are the leader. And I want to make sure you are clear on that from here on out. So that's my soapbox for today. I mean, I tell you what, you get me going on certain topics, and this is one of them, that leadership has nothing to do with the title, nothing to do with the role, nothing to do with number of direct reports or not. Like, it's us looking in the mirror and being like, yep, I'm going to go get after it today. I'm going to do amazing things today. I'm going to choose to be out front and do things the right way. So make sure you've got your mindset in the right place. So much fun talking about this topic with you today on the podcast. One thing I'll mention, as I do fairly frequently, but if you have not checked out yet and you want to know your sales leader superpower that you can leverage to help you, end of the day, make more money, know thyself, get more out of your team, go over to mattphillipscoaching.com/quiz, check it out, and we'll see you on the next podcast. Thank you for joining us today on the Matt Phillips Podcast. If you are like us, we know that you are here to do great things, to become the sales leader that makes things happen and drives big time sales results. We know you have that big vision, and we are here to help get you where you want to go. We're here to help you develop that unstoppable, rock solid leadership skill set and help you train to master the one true differentiator: mental toughness. We would love to be part of your journey. So if you are ready, head over to mattphillipscoaching.com and check out the ways that we can help. As always, please share this episode and make sure you subscribe by clicking the button below. Thank you again. And now, go crush the day.